Hey, it's Ryan Biddulph of the Blogging from Paradise podcast and ebook series. You're listening to the 360 Entrepreneur with Yann ilunga.
This is episode 71, and today we talk about how to become a full-time traveling blogger. Here we go.
Welcome to the 360 Entrepreneur Podcast, the show for entrepreneurs and small business owners who dream big and want to do bigger. Join some of the world's top entrepreneurs, internet marketers, and best-selling authors as they share their inspiring stories, their struggles, and give actionable tips that will help you build, grow, and promote your online business. Here's your host, Yann ilunga.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to this new episode of the 360 Entrepreneur Podcast. And today, we talk about two things, traveling and blogging. As you've seen from the title, we talk about how to become a full-time traveling blogger. And man, what a guest we have joining us. He's an island-hopping, world-traveling blogger, author, podcaster, and I'm talking about Ryan Biddulph from bloggingfromparadise.com, and he shares so many great tips and resources. He talks about the tools he uses whenever he is around the world. He talks about the power of commenting, and this is great. Even if you maybe don't see yourself as a full-time traveling blogger, but you want to become a better blogger, Ryan discusses how you can leverage blog commenting to really get exposure and to get A-listers, companies to support you and your business. Before we get started, like always, let's take a quick break to check out today's sponsor. Before I found out about Social Oomph, I would spend hours promoting my content on social media. Now with Social Oomph, I can easily schedule updates on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, put those on autopilot and let Social Oomph work its magic. Go to 360entrepreneur.net/socialoomph to sign up and boost your social media productivity today. Alright, the link to the show notes page with everything Ryan and I mentioned is at 360entrepreneur.net/episode 71. So that's episode 71. Okay, here it is. How to become a full-time traveling blogger with Ryan Biddulph. Hey everybody, I'm sure the title of this episode got you curious and you're intrigued because today we talk about how to become a full-time traveling blogger. And what a guest we have joining us. He has actually just got back from to the States a couple of days ago. And he's the founder of bloggingfromparadise.com and the Blogging from Paradise book series. The blog helps you retire to a life of island hopping through smart blogging. As I said, he's also an author. He's a best-selling author who has published well over 70 ebooks. This is crazy. Well over 70 ebooks. And his latest one has been just recently published. It's called Solopreneur Ronin, Break the Chains, Earn Your Freedom, and Engineer a Happy Life Blogging from Anywhere. I'm so ecstatic to welcome on the show Ryan Biddulph. Hey Ryan, how's it going?
Yann, it's going great. I really appreciate you extending the invitation to me. I'm deeply honored. I look back through your guest log and I'm like, wow. So the pleasure is all mine, buddy.
Likewise, I'm so happy that you're here with us. And I remember when we exchanged emails, I think you were still maybe in Bali. I know that you've been in Bali, you've been in Thailand, you've been to Fiji, to Costa Rica, like you've been traveling so much. So I'm sure people who are joining us are curious. Can you tell us more about your travels and your blog, bloggingfromparadise.com?
Sure thing. I've actually been traveling around the world for 4 years in a row now. I was formerly I know, this is long term. When I tell people this, they start shaking their head because so many people are used to doing the 1 or 2 week bit or maybe like a month. But I've been doing it for 4 years. I am an ex-fired security guard from New Jersey. And at the time, she was my girlfriend. Now she's my wife, Kelly. She told me about the online bit, and I had no clue in heck that you could even make money online. This is literally 10 years ago now. But long and the short of it, I started to build a little venture back then, and we decided to do the globetrotting bit. And about a year and a half, now it's a little over a year ago, I hatched Blogging from Paradise because I was thinking with my old blog, I had some success, but it really wasn't clear and it wasn't really authentic. I just wanted to make some bucks online and I was doing okay with it. But I'm like, listen, I have retired to a life of island hopping through smart blogging. And I want to help other people do the same. And it was so easy because it was my life. I've been blogging for years on end, and I'd been island hopping or just traveling around the world for about 4 years in a row. So really, that was the genesis of it, was kind of that aha moment. Of course, I had to delete 3,400 posts from my old blog, which was a little uncomfortable considering it was 5 years worth of blood, sweat, and tears.
Right.
But when you release something that isn't serving you, you're going to open up to a brand new, exciting experience. And that's what this journey's been like for me.
Awesome. And Ryan, I have to ask you this, because I'm sure when people think about being a full-time traveling blogger or entrepreneur, they think about all the nice things. So, beautiful seas, beautiful views, cocktails, food, new cultures, whatever. But they're also, maybe they don't think about that often, about maybe the downsides of being on the road all the time. So I wanted to ask if you can kind of give all of us a reality check in terms of what it really means to be a full-time traveling blogger.
Wow. I'm so happy you asked that question or to bring it up, because it's people think that, I'm here in Savu, or when I was in Savu, Fiji, or say in Jimbaran, Bali, or in Monteverde, Costa Rica, that I'm sitting on my duff with my feet up drinking coconut shakes all day. And that ain't the case. My thing is, and I stress to people so much, you have to be so in love with being free that you're not terrified to do uncomfortable things. Mm-hmm. And some of the uncomfortable things include working every single day, building connections, churning out the blog posts, churning out the ebooks, starting podcasts. It's something where I just try to stress to people, if you look at someone and you think, wow, they're so lucky, number one, luck really doesn't exist. Number two, that person is doing the uncomfortable things that you're terrified to do. Mm-hmm. And it's a real sobering reality check. And me, it's putting in hours every day. Right now, I'm writing and publishing a 6,000 to 7,000 word ebook every single day. So that means that this has been for the past 6 weeks. So imagine writing and publishing a 6,000 word blog post every single day for 6.5 weeks. And some people would just look at it and be like, well, what is this guy on? But literally, Yann, I'm just so obsessed with being free that I do the uncomfortable and sometimes crazy things that help me to live this awesome life. So you really got to work. You got to put in the time. It's not going to happen on its own. And a lot of those things are going to be really scary, and they're going to bring up limiting beliefs, but welcome to this lifestyle.
Right. I agree with you. And I remember also Natalie Sisson, the suitcase entrepreneur, she told some of the things you have told us now in episode 9. And I remember she also talked about the importance of being, having the right mindset. Like you told us, you aren't afraid to really step out of your comfort zone and be in a new situation for example, every week or every month. And I'm curious to ask you this, and I'm sure maybe some of the people who are joining us, Ryan, are wondering, in terms of your, you have your website, bloggingfromparadise.com, you have your podcast that we're going to be discussing later on, you have your books, but in terms of tools of the trade, if we can call them so, when you travel, what do you have with you? Even though, there are services that you can use through the cloud and stuff, but in terms of, equipment, let's say, what does a full-time traveling blogger needs to have in his or her own suitcase?
Well, it's funny because I am so bare bones and simple. Most people would probably look at me and be like, how do you do it with so few things? But I really believe genuinely the tools of my trade are mental. And once you have that down, and I work so diligently on my mindset, as far as physical tools, you can see and touch, I just have a tablet. I have my laptop. I have a cell phone from 2009. Or no, how long have I been traveling now? 2011. 2011, I bought in Thailand, and it is the most basic little thing. And some people look at me and they're like, how do you do it? And I genuinely believe, of course, you have to have a few tools, because we're not doing this through mental telepathy here. But really, basically, it's a tablet, it's a laptop, and even the cell phone. I never use the thing. Now, of course, online, I have my Skype. I have my tools, my Hootsuite, my TweetDeck, also Social Oomph, as far as apps and whatnot. But I'm telling you, I'm really bare bones. And I think it's that level of simplicity where I'm not connected or plugged in too much that helps me to create like crazy. And more than that, it's the focus on the mental tools, because I think most people, even though you do need the tools, they're so focused on the what that they don't know what the why is. Mm-hmm. Like they're thinking, you know what, I need this, you need that, and you definitely do. But I'm obsessed with the mental aspect of it, because I've found that really working on my mindset and meditating in the morning and diving into an icy cold shower for about 2 minutes, which is almost the best thing that I think any human being can do, because it will reset your nervous system and get you high vibing for the day. And the deep stretching and exercise, those are my tools. That's what I use, other than the laptop and the tablet and that, old school cell phone to really build this type of life. So I think, full-time island hopper, you have to work so much on your mindset, because between the online bit, it's stressful enough sometimes and uncomfortable enough. And then the offline bit of, how it is with traveling and stuff, you have the cultural barriers, the language barriers. You're going to be introduced to so much quote unquote stuff on the road that you really have to have your mind right. And Natalie's one of the best. She's a legend because she has it down and she's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, Ryan, how do you prepare for if now you and your wife are saying, okay, next month we're gonna go somewhere where we have never been before? How do you guys prepare, like mentally and in terms of, do you read, do you have specific websites or guides that you use as reference?
Really, we're so big on intuitive nudges. When we started the trip, my wife really wanted to do Southeast Asia. And I'd never been on a plane before. My last vacation was 1989. Mm-hmm. I'm not even kidding. It was just, I never did. So intuitively, we were pulled towards Southeast Asia. Once we went to Bali, we were like, we know we could be coming back here a lot. It was one of those things like, if we're somewhere we love going to, we'll go back there regularly. Mm-hmm. Other than that, a little bit of research online, perhaps some of the travel sites that you'd see commonly. We might do a little research on blogs, but so much of it is just that intuitive pull to like, you see a picture or a friend mentions it and you're like, like with Costa Rica, we saw Monteverde, we saw Manuel Antonio, the national park there. We were like, we have to go there. And then maybe a travel blog mentioned it. Yeah. So a lot of it's really that as far as the preparation for the trips. And then, we'll hop on Airbnb. What we've been doing recently is house sitting. Mm-hmm. Which is really insane because like Trusted House Carers is one. I believe Trusted House Sitters or House Carers and Trusted House Sitters are two of the main ones. Well, now we'll look for jobs on there, and basically in most cases you live rent free, and the homeowners will pick up the bill. And the one we just came from was a 6-month house sit in a football field sized villa in Jimbaran, Bali. Wow. And it was just a special experience, and we lived there for 6 months, and she picked up everything. It's really amazing when you think about it. So those are a few of the channels we use to actually find the places. But as far as the places themselves, a lot of it's the intuitive nudge with maybe a little travel blog here or there for some research.
Right. And you were telling us that you have been really focused on the creation aspect of your business. And I remember, I think you have a blog post, and guys, like in every episode, I'm going to link to that blog post, to Ryan's website, the podcast, everything else we talk about in the show notes. And in that blog post, you talk about kind of what you have learned by publishing 55 ebooks in 10 months. And I said in the intro, as of today, you have had well over 70 ebooks published, which is crazy. There are people who will never have 5 books in their lifetime, and you have 70 ebooks. So Ryan, I'm curious if you have some insights and food for thoughts that you can share with us in terms of what have you learned through that process.
I've learned, Yann, that it's as you become more obsessed with being free, then you fear doing the uncomfortable things, you're going to gradually see all of your mental blocks up close and personal in an intimate fashion. Because like me, back when I started writing, and this was literally 10 years ago now, after writing 200 words, I'd sometimes actually tear up and start crying because I was so frustrated that I couldn't write anything beyond that. Mm. I had such a strong mental block. I had such worthiness issues. And again, this is a decade ago. Slowly over time, you literally start seeing what's stopping you, and it's what's going on in your mind. And in a lot of cases, they have those strong limiting beliefs. But as far as that's probably the chief thing. Other than that, if you really want to get stuff done, make creating your number one goal, because I really believe creating frees you and your audience the most. If you do that and you really fall in love with it, then what you do is you set aside a couple blocks a day. Like I have my writing blocks for maybe 2-3 hours in the morning and then 2-3 hours in the evening. And say if you work a full-time job, you're looking to switch from the 9 to 5 to becoming a full-time digital nomad, set aside 30 minutes a day. And where you just go into quiet and you write and you write and you write. And the more you do that, you'll create a habit. Like say if you brush your teeth every day, I hope, right? Or, you shower every day. You literally create a habit where you just do it. And with writing, it's the same thing. It won't become like I need to write. It'll just be like I go into a quiet room and subconsciously, boom, the words start flowing from mind to fingers to laptop to Word doc to Amazon. So it's really that type of, you got to be in love with being free. You'll see your limiting beliefs. You'll sit with them. You'll patiently sit there. They'll go away. And then you just set up that habit where you're just habitually writing. And like I said, 6.5 weeks now, where literally every single day I'm writing and publishing an ebook. And it's almost seems like a fairy tale to me almost. It almost seems like just entirely surreal because, again, I was a broke peer guard 10 years ago, $60,000 in debt, being sued by creditors. I left everything behind in New Jersey, and here I am today writing ebooks like hotcakes.
And obviously, you told us at the beginning the importance of having a blog. You told us about your previous blog where you had 3,400 blog posts that you decided to get rid of when you started blogging from Paradise. And I know that you also on your blog and I think in one of your books, you talk about 5 things a blog needs. So if there is someone listening to you and I, Ryan, who's maybe about to get started with a blog, or even if they already have a blog, what are those 5 things you need a blog needs?
Well, really, one of the biggest things you need, and it's so tough for most people to delve into, you need storytelling. Right. And I think a lot of people think their life, if they've just made the transition and they think, well, I've been an office worker my whole life, or I've never done anything online, or I haven't lived in Fiji for 4 months like that Ryan Biddulph guy. I could tell more entertaining tales from my days as a peer guard, breaking up fights between Coptic Egyptians and Muslims and at the shipping terminal in New Jersey than I can from the stories on the road. So we'll have an interesting story to tell. So number one, you definitely need those stories. Number 2, you just need the clarity. You need to know why you're blogging. And for me, I think it should be to free yourself and to free your audience. You also need a really a blogging passion, a passion for your blog. You should blog your passion, something where you just want to learn about every single day, because then your learning curve will dissolve. Because most people's learning curve is so big because they don't really care about what they're doing. They're trying to make money, or they're trying to get a little fame. And learning is like a chore. For me, writing about traveling and blogging, learning about it, it's a pleasure. So I just read. You also want to build your list, because even though I resisted this like a dingbat for so many years, people may check their Facebook, they may check Triber, they might just check their bookmarks, they're checking their email every day. So get in that build a list. And of course, when you build a list, you'll need an opt-in form on your blog, preferably 2. I'm trying to think of things I mentioned in the article itself. There are really a number of other elements, but those are some of the real basic ones that you need to effectively brand yourself. Oh, that's another thing too. Think branding with your blog. That's one thing your blog needs. It's a brand. Because I used to just think, it's just a blog. Branding's for McDonald's and Apple and Coca-Cola. Right. And then I realized that we're all walking, living, breathing brands. We are, whether we like it or not, because it's that feeling that people feel from stopping by your blog or listening to your podcast. So really think branding. Think of, a nice shiny header. You want to pick an easy to visualize domain name. And you want to link it all together with that top-down alignment that doesn't confuse readers. So when they look at your blog from top down, from domain name to title to tagline, all the way through to the bottom of your blog, right, left, they're like, okay, this guy does one thing, and he's going to benefit me by doing one thing. Mm-hmm. So you really want to focus on those general ideas. I fleshed that out, of course, on my blog and in my ebook so much more in depth. But really, those are some of the basic ideas that you really need to make it a full-time income earner, so you could do whatever the heck you want, whether it's to retire to your home, or whether if you love your 9 to 5 and you just want to generate some nice scratch on the side. These are some of the basics that you really want to stick to that will help you either retire from your 9 to 5, or if it's for you, doing the 9 to 5 bit that you love, and then really generating some nice cash on the side and freeing a lot of folks in the process.
Right. No, absolutely, Ryan. Thank you so much for sharing those golden nuggets with us. And when it comes to blogging, there is something else you talk about, and I think this is also in one of your ebooks, which I think is very, very interesting. And I'm sure, some people, as I'm about to ask you the question, may be wondering what it is. And you talk about how to build an online empire through blog commenting. And I think it's very interesting. And I would like you to tell us more about why you think blog commenting is important, because I'm sure there are many people who are listening to you and I that, maybe they read blogs or they are part of Facebook groups or they participate in Twitter chats, but they are more of observers. So they don't really feel for whatever reason to, give their 2 cents, start to connect with people. So Ryan, why do you think we should all put emphasis on commenting blogs?
The lurkers. I was also a lurker one day. Yeah, I like to sit in the background. You know what it is more than anything? I think for newbie bloggers, for veteran bloggers, for intermediary bloggers, it's a way to indirectly get paid for offering your opinion. Now, you're not going to get paid from the comment itself, but what it does is it helps you build bonds with other bloggers. It helps you brand yourself. It helps you gain visibility, and all these things lead to business growing ventures. And to some skeptics, I just point to some of my biggest success stories online. They all had their origin and they're all blog commenting. Mm-hmm. Chris Brogan, he's endorsed 3 of my ebooks.
Right. And
he's been a business coach for Richard Branson, Tony Robbins, Paulo Coelho, Google, Microsoft, Apple. I think most people are familiar with these folks and these businesses. He offers them business advice, and he's also a New York Times bestselling author. And how am I going to meet this guy and build a bond when I was kind of a joke back in the day? Like I really did. I did okay with my old blog, but I was a bum. I admit it. But still, at that, I knew to connect with this guy through the blog commenting field, and I'd leave 3, 4, 5 paragraphs into really in-depth comments back then when he had comments open on his blog. And I also connected with him through email. And like the one time I had mentioned that I had my first book out, I didn't even ask him, and he endorsed it. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, what did it? And then I realized all that legwork of just number one, building a bond with him through blog commenting. And it's, again, anybody could do it. It's free. It's relatively easy. You have to be patient with it. And then, number 2, I showed up persistently, and there's no barriers to entry. I think that's what it is more than anything. Whereas with other stuff, you kind of have to jump through hoops to try to get through gatekeepers. With blog comments, you leave your opinion, and anybody could do it. You could share your opinion as a newbie or as a veteran person, or veteran blogger, and you'll make an impact. So that's one of the big ones. I also spoke at NYU about blogging through blog commenting. And again, not many bloggers get to speak at NYU. And Matthew Kapala, my friend and the guy I've worked with, we put out Solopreneur Ronin together. We co-wrote it. He's a professor at NYU. And again, the thing that made me pop up on the radar was just simply leaving a comment on his blog for a number of weeks. And I just view it as being so easy and straightforward that I could be endorsed by a New York Times bestselling author and one of the business minds, right? It's weird through leaving an opinion. It's really strange when you think about it. But I think a lot of skeptics think, nothing's going to come out of it. And then I'm like, listen, I spoke at NYU and one of the world's greatest business minds endorsed me, and it's for leaving my opinion. So you can't be skeptical about that. You're right. And provide value with your comment, obviously. That's the biggest thing. You want to make an impact. I treat, when I do it more in depth than in the past I did, now not quite as much in depth because of the ebooks, I treat comments as content. Right. So I don't comment just to, the drive-by bit, like, great post, love you, gotta go. It's not about that. It's about really leaving value, sharing your thoughts, showing that you read the post, linking into a point, and being personable. And to build the online empire, you're going to use their name. Hey, Ryan, I really love the point you made. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Ryan. Keep up the great work. I tweeted this. You're building friendships more than anything else. And friendships are the foundation upon which you build your online empire. You can't do it on your own. You just can't do it. And I think that's why blog commenting is just so powerful. It gives you that no barrier to entry way to build those bonds with anybody.
This podcast is on fire, and before the interview with Ryan continues, a quick break to thank today's sponsor. Being from Switzerland, I know quite a lot about Swiss Army knives and time. I mean, after all, Switzerland is the country of watches, right? When it comes to social media, Social Oomph is my Swiss Army knife. With Social Oomph, I can put my social media marketing on autopilot and I can focus on networking and building valuable connections. Schedule tweets, track keywords, manage Facebook and LinkedIn profiles, groups, pages. Social Oomph does it all. Go to 360entrepreneur.net/socialoomph to get Social Oomph for free or even snatch the free 7-day trial for Social Oomph Pro at 360entrepreneur.net/socialoomph. Yeah, no, absolutely. And Ryan, in your answer, you mentioned Solopreneur Ronin. So your latest book, Solopreneur Ronin, Break the Chains, Earn Your Freedom, and Engineer a Happy Life Blogging from Anywhere. So if there is someone who has been joining us, has been enjoying this conversation, is curious about your latest book, what can they expect from it, Ryan?
Sure. It's basically a study into what I did to break the chains from a very confining job. I enjoyed it on one level, but the job in the shipping terminal, sometimes I worked 80 hours a week, 6 to 12, meaning 18-hour days and 7 days a week to get the OT. So basically, it's how I made that transition from that guy who had zero entrepreneurial experience, zero online experience other than checking ESPN.com and my email. And I'm serious when I say that. I didn't know how to do anything else before I started the online bit, to this freeing life, to where, I'm a solopreneur. I've built up a business, of course, with the help of friends, but without, a huge marketing department or a serious bankroll to, reach out and outsource like mad. And basically, I did it with the help of folks, but as a solo entrepreneur. So the book is a study into practically what you could do, physically, mentally, to get yourself prepared for this type of lifestyle. So you do it. So you dive in, and so you build a prospering, profitable venture, again, without having the marketing department and the VP and, stuff that entrepreneurs may have. So that's pretty much it. And then Matt was very clever, and the editor as well. They worked in this really cool Ronin theme. The Ronin's the masterless samurai. So what we did is we melded my lifestyle and also Matt's insight as well, Matthew Kapala, to this whole Ronin theme of being the masterless samurai. And basically, as he makes his journey from losing his samurai to becoming the free being that he is. And that would be like the solopreneur that, I am today and that so many more people are becoming. So it's a pretty entertaining read. And the other day, it's not free any longer. It was free for a week, but it was very honored to say that I guess I pulled the wool over enough people's eyes. It was the #1 free self-help book on Amazon the other day.
That's crazy. Congrats, Ryan.
No, I appreciate that. And I think so many people are just buying into, there's a different way, like what you do, what I'm doing. If you're not happy, and if you are happy, then awesome, live that lifestyle. But if you're not, and there's that little tweak of like, this guy was a broke security guard 10 years ago, and now he blogs from Fiji and he speaks at NYU and he's earning a full-time income, and maybe that's a possibility.
Right.
And and you kind of have that. And I think with the ebook, it's really, it's become more and more popular because it's people, they want to experience more. So I really hope that's always been my intent with everything I've done to free me and to free my audience and whoever's listening. Just, that it keeps growing in popularity, and that my ebooks do as well, because I know what it's like to be bound, and I know what it's like to be depressed and broke and wondering, what's the point of life, literally. And then, where I am today, where I'm island hopping and changing time zones like most people change clothes. And the whole blogging tips bit, I want more people to do it. So it's been a blast, and Ronin's taking off, and we'll see where it goes.
And Ryan, this episode has been fantastic. You've told us more about your story, about your blog, bloggingfromparadise.com. You shared some tips for becoming a full-time traveling blogger like you do. You told us what you've learned by publishing over 50 books in 10 months. You told us about the things you think a blog needs. You also emphasized the importance of blog commenting, and now you told us about Solopreneur Ronin. And obviously, I know that people can find you through your blog, can find you online on, for example, on Twitter at Ryan Biddulph. But you also have a podcast, a relatively new podcast now. You have released a few episodes now, so it's not a baby anymore. It's already growing up quickly. But in case people want to learn more about that, can you tell what they can expect? Is on Stitcher. So guys, you can find it on Stitcher. Again, I will put the link in the show notes to the podcast, Solopreneur Running, and everything else we have covered. But Ryan, if someone wants to, get to know you more, why should they tune in the Blogging from Paradise podcast?
Really, Yann, it's right now. It's in the process. Hopefully, cross my fingers, it's approved on iTunes. I uploaded it the other day, or I submitted it. So hopefully it should be on iTunes really soon. But basically, it's 20 to 25 minutes, short and to the point, of me freestyling about how I created this life. And more than anything else, I'd like to think it's a pretty high energy ordeal. I don't try to be funny, but I could be a little bit of a ham sometimes. But more than anything, I think whether you find it now on Stitcher, hopefully on iTunes soon, you'll get authenticity is so big with me. So like everything I talk about, it's what I do to have created this life. A lot of people say, how the heck do you do it? And I'm just like, listen to the podcast, check out the ebooks, free stuff on my blog, or the $2.99 ebooks. It's the podcast itself is just basically what I've done to retire to a life of island hopping through smart blogging. And if you want to know and use the same practical tips to mold a similar freeing life, whatever that is for you, tune into the podcast. It's just starting up now. So like you said, it's not quite the infant. Now it's growing. Hopefully when it gets to iTunes soon, then it should really start expanding more. But short, punchy, to the point, full of practical tips, a little bit of humor here and there, and more than anything, authenticity. And that's one thing I've always prided myself on for as long as I've been online. So
love it. Thanks, Ryan, for sharing that with us. And if people want to get in touch with you, maybe they have some follow-up questions, or they want to simply connect with you, what is the quickest and best way to do that?
There's probably the quickest way would probably be, I would say, Twitter. I would say a Twitter direct message if you really want to get quickly, and it's at Ryan Biddulph, Ryan Biddulph, and send me a direct message, because I do check them in between the sometimes questionable spam. Everybody knows those DMs can get a little, how to control them. But I actually check them. I really do check them, and I'm on Twitter all day long. I have like 38,000 followers now, and I actually engage on the network very aggressively. So I'll keep the stream humming. But yeah, definitely get in touch with me on Twitter. Other than that, bloggingfromparadise.com. Check out a post, leave me a comment. I read every single one. So
awesome. Ryan, thank you so much for taking time. Now you're there in the States, so at the moment you aren't traveling. So thank you for stopping by the podcast, joining us and telling us more about Blogging from Paradise, your story, and for sharing some tips on how to become a full-time traveling blogger. I so appreciate it.
Yann, the pleasure is all mine. The honor is all mine. And really, thank you so much for giving me a chance to chat with your audience. It was an absolute blast.
And we are back. Ryan, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your story, your tip, talking about your new podcast. And guys, the podcast is now available on both Stitcher and iTunes. So you find the link to that, Ryan's new book, because since the time we recorded the interview, he actually published a new book. So you find the link to that as well in the show note page at 360entrepreneur.net/episode 71. To wrap up this episode, I want to mention to you a special event about podcasting. You may remember I was a speaker in International Podcast Day and I used Blab, and I will make the link to the replay I recorded available as soon as possible. There were some problems with the audio, and the good folks of International Podcast Day actually said that happened with other people who tried recording their session, but they should be able to provide me with that. So as soon as I will make the replay video with audio, obviously, available so that you can check the tips I shared in my session, how to build authority through podcasting. Now, I mentioned Blab, and the event I want to mention is called PodCon, and it's a sort of online conference completely for free that is going to take place on Blab on October 8th, if I remember correctly. I'll double check. Anyways, make sure to check the link in the show notes so that you can sign up there. If you're interested in podcasting or you're a podcaster, check it out. It's free, as I said. Lots of great speakers, so it's going to be fun, all right? See you there. This is it for this episode. Like always, thank you so much for joining Ryan and I, and come back on Thursday because there is an incredible guest. You really don't want to miss out on Thursday's episode. Yann here. Thanks again, guys. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the 360 Entrepreneur Podcast. For more tips and tools, head over to www.360entrepreneur.net.